Hello everybody, welcome back to some more Dailies by Daylight, and I have a thesis to spit today, basically, and I was a little unsure of whether this would be good for a video or if it would be better for, like, a Tumblr post or whatever, but by unanimous decree on Twitter, it's gonna be a video. So, hey, this might get a bit strange, and just whilst I'm going over what I'm gonna talk about, I guess I'll try and open an exit gate with Ash, because why not? I like to suffer on occasion. Hey. So the crux of the issue is that there is a problem inside of Dead by Daylight right now, and it's not a bug kind of problem. It's not a problem of, oh, this is massively OP, how could I ever possibly beat this, this is totally BS, that kind of thing. Well, it's closer to that one at least. And the problem is the perk ecosystem. So, every character comes with 3 teachable perks, and there's a bunch of them that were just there and not really connected to anybody as well. And every survivor, every killer, has up to 4 perk slots, and the perks go from rank 1 to rank 3, we'll call them grades, why not? Grades, tiers, whatever you want to call them, but for now we're just gonna go with grades. And they vary in utility. They usually have a specific function. It is usually meaningful to have a perk that does that function whilst you're working in its kind of like wheelhouse, but generally speaking, you can still do it if you don't. There's some exceptions to that, which I'll get to in a moment, and the main thing that I'm going to talk about is the fact that there are some perks that are more or less considered auto-include. They're perks that are really powerful and are useful in the vast majority of games, or have a really big and important, benefit from having, and generally speaking, no downside. Some of those are not too bad. For instance, if we go to Claudette, she has the perk Self-Care. It is very unusual, especially at the higher ranks, to find a team of survivors, at least one of whom doesn't have self-care. Pretty much there's always gonna be at least one self-care in that bunch. Frequently, you'll find it's more in the like 3 to 4 kind of survivor range of having self-care. And then you have things like Iron Will that turn up a bunch. Balanced Landing has recently made a huge resurgence. Urban Evasion can be a massive pain in the neck. And these are all perks that are considered by the meta and such to be really significant and really powerful with basically no downside. That by itself is kind of a problem, because it means that whilst there are a huge number of perks available, my pig alone has 45 of them, that means that whilst there's all those perks and all that possibility for combinations and such, we get pared down dramatically. We start to see similar or same builds over and over and over again. And that means that the builds are less creative, they're less distinct, and games, as a consequence, tend to end up feeling very much alike. So that's a bad thing, just by itself. It gets worse, however, because some of these perks have a very particular kind of function. They're what's called second chance perks. And the, possibly earliest example of this would be Laurie Strode's teachable Decisive Strike. Before, her original iteration of this, what would happen was you would down the survivor, you would pick them up, they would make a skill check, and they would immediately jump out of your arms and you had to chase them down again. Chasing down a survivor twice to try and get them to the hook is a huge problem for killers, because it eats a lot of time. Here's the next problem of this perk ecosystem, which is that perks are not unique. You can have 4 of a given perk on a survivor team. Killers also have all of these problems, but the fact that there are 1 killer to 4 survivors means that you see these much more glaringly inside of the survivor team. So, don't worry, I will be thinking of nerfs for the killer side of this later on in this video. It's not just me being a killer main saying, oh, this isn't fair, that kind of thing. Now, so, they did change Decisive Strike after a while. So Decisive Strike now requires that you first have to unhook, and that can be unhooking or it can be being unhooked, but you then only have a 40-second window in which you can then actually use this. Now, that grows up to about 60 seconds at top tier, but you can still have a team where every single person has this. And now, because the killer obsession changes based on who has just most recently used Decisive Strike, you can't even predict who has it. The only way that you know if Decisive Strike is going to be a problem in a given match is if there is no obsession. And there's a lot of perks that can make an obsession. So that's a problem. That's what's arguably the original second chance perk. It's not the only one, however. We have Medal of Man, which became a blight upon the ecosystem when Ash first came out. And then we have a bunch of other things. Dead Hard is an extremely common one because there's no downside to this. The biggest downside of Dead Hard is that you only get usually one use of it per chase, but you can use it any number of times in the game. So yeah, that's a problem. There's like oddly enough, the largest number of these come from Bill. Because there is Unbreakable and there is Borrowed Time, both of which are considered to be second chance perks. Now, a singular second chance perk by itself is not a problem. The problem is a given player can have up to 4 of them, so a given survivor team can have up to 16 of them. And second chance perks are most troublesome in the gameplay aspect of things because you can buy a lot of time, even if you barely actually know how to use them. So that just means that the killer is wasting so much time just eating through the second chance perks of the survivor team, and it makes things really frustrating, speaking from personal experience, but it also means that the games are just really very much the same and boring. So here I go, trying to get Ash through gates, and then we'll talk about my idea, my concept, my revolutionary hypothesis, yada yada, for how to fix that problem in a way that is fair and ideally balanced. But here we go. Oh goody. This is a big map. Any eventual... Oop, okay, there's a... Ah, hello. Any eventual gates are going to be very far apart. My perks, as you can see, are rubbish. I have Technician. I have Small Game, which I guess means that I'll be looking for totems. I've got Iron Will, which is great for Ash because he is very loud, and I have Buckle Up, which I don't even remember what that one does, but I don't really have any options for Ash. Oh. Okay, let's just see. Do we have any totems for me to worry about? Nothing in the vicinity, at the very least. Oh, and somebody's already being injured. No ruin. Good. Oh, that's just... glory. Just down? Just down. Okay. I don't even know what killer this is. Could you crawl into my periphery so I can make out what it is when they pick you up eventually? There we go. I have no idea what this creature is. Oh boy. I couldn't even make it out from the bubble. Oh. This is going well. Oh, are we dealing with instant saves? Not quite. What is that? Is that Ghostface? I think that might be Ghostface. Oh, well, this is just a glorious start, isn't it? Point of note, I don't get this daily if I just use the hatch. I only get this daily if I open a gate. Boy, you had better been healing. Not even remotely. Okay, then. Well, here we go, folks. Oh. This is why you're seeing this in the middle of the video instead of, like, over top of it all, because this is going to be a short game. Move. Yeah, it's Ghostface. Not quite sure why I'm seeing him, but it's Ghostface, alright. Well, it's me and Bill against the world. Possibly. If I'm lucky, it's me and Bill. It's probably not just me and Bill. Okay, you're already getting rescued. Now, Dwight, lucky for you, this is your first hook. Unlucky for me, somebody has to rescue your butt off of it. Okay, I see him over there. He's back in stealth mode, so I have no... Oh, he's right there. And I'm not revealing him somehow. Okay. Functioning exactly as intended. Get moving. Hey, Ghostface, look at me, look at me, look at me. Oh, Dwight, you butt. Seriously? I didn't even get injured. I might survive this by the sheer incompetence of the team. Oh dear. At least we've got God Pallet next to the gate. Provided we can get the gate powered. Okay, thrilling tremors, we expected that much. Just gonna work on this. Oh, glory. I'm not a high-ranked survivor, in fairness. But... yeah. That's what Buckle Up does. It shows me how far healed people are on the ground. I'm not getting you twice, man. Me and Bill are the only people making progress in this game. And there goes one. If Bill wants to rescue you, that is his prerogative. But I think you've shown that we're not going to be greatly benefited by your presence. Excepting maybe as meat shields. Welp. Bill, I've been helpful. I've been a positive influence. Oh, okay, no, it's not Bill, it's Jake. My mistake. Jake, I've been a positive influence upon this team. Kindly save my life if possible. He hasn't kicked the generator. I've got that going for me. I don't have that going for me for very long, though, apparently. The good news about these particular dailies is, they don't get spoiled. You either complete them or you don't. That's a nice thing about them. And you're not even recovering. Really? Glory be its medkit. Okay. Dude, recover. You're not even moving. Actually, that said, I don't know if the bright white means fully recovered or not. Should probably have read what the perk does. Okay. Oh, he's using you as bait. Can I get you to come over here? Apparently not. Is this guy even actually, like, exposed to anybody this entire game? Genuinely couldn't I see him? He's over there by the rock. Get up and go. You have a medkit, I trust you can use it. Oh, right into a wall, lovely. Oh, and right into him. Okay, never mind, I'm good. For at least a little while longer. A little while longer, but I haven't been hooked, so yay. Oh, and he is picking me up. Grand. And he has Broom Grasp. Okay. Now I know. I didn't hear him kicking the gen. Now he probably has. Oh, Jake, please. Please give me some faith here. Come on, Jake. I believe in you. I may not need to believe in you for that much, but... Nope, never mind. Yeah, it looks like white does mean ready to be picked up. Noted. But, yeah, this would be the end of the game. Oh. So, I'm just gonna hang out here for a little bit, and, we'll get back to my idea for how to improve the ecosystem. See you in a mo. Oh, that explains a little bit. What was Cutie the Ghost Face running? Well, I had, like... I had that right. I think I called it Brutal Strength, but they're basically the same thing applied to different things. Frilling Trimmers, Iron Grasp. Oof. Give him a GG for that. I got points. And now I have talking points. On to! Now the obvious and most clear kind of suggestion I could make for how to improve the perk ecosystem and make these particularly powerful perks and such turn up a little less often would be to just nerf them. However, I don't think there's really a way that you can meaningfully nerf a second chance perk without just making it not a second chance perk. And as a general rule, it's best if you can to avoid taking away options and agency from players, because it really sucks to like find out that your favorite thing is no longer actually available. So that means that I need a solution outside of changing the perks, and there is one particular solution that I think works quite well potentially for Dead by Daylight, and that is of a point build system, which we're going to call for the time being perk points. So perk points would be a set inventory of points that you have on a character by character basis. Presumably this is per player inside of a game. So you have one for the Dwight, one for the Meg, one for the Bill, one for the Ash, apparently, and one for probably even the Killer. And you are then afforded your full section of perk slots that you've unlocked by leveling, as well as all of the perks that you can find in your blood web. And every one of those perks that you have has a cost attached to it. Most probably we'd call grade 3 perks as being significantly more expensive than their grade 1 counterparts, plus some consideration for what the perks do mechanically, meaning that second chance perks tend to be some of the more expensive that you have in your inventory. And you can have whatever combination of perks that you like, provided that their total cost is less than or equal to the number of perk points that you have. This kind of system is not remotely revolutionary. I haven't just come up with something that the world has never seen. This is a system that's used a lot in RPGs. It is used in things like Pathfinder, it's been used in Elder Scrolls, Dark Souls, as well as the first-person shooter Borderlands. Like, this is not a brand new thing, this is a known model that can actually work quite well. It's chiefly a way of gaining access to powerful things, by necessitating late game development. Here, I think you should start out with the same number that you will always end with, so you can fill up all 4 slots with perks, like, from no matter what rate they are, but you're gonna have to try and balance exactly which ones you bring, because like, let's say that you can only have 2 second chance perks normally. That's just like a course of how powerful they are. That then means that you have invested theoretically more than 75% of your points into those 2 slots. So you then have only 25% of your points to actually spend on the last 2, if you want to put anything in them at all. So they're probably going to be quite junky. You can spread things out a bit more if you only have the 1 second chance perk. You can not take a second chance perk at all and have some relatively decently, moderately powerful perks across the set. Chiefly, this still means that you can get to use your second chance perks, so you can still end up facing a team that has 8 of them, but that's still substantially less frustrating than having to face 16 of them. And it also promotes a bit more contemplation. You can't just auto-lock in dead hard, unbreakable, decisive strike, that kind of thing, across the board and expect to win all the time. Point of note, you can't expect to win that way anyways. There's definitely been a few matches, especially as Pig here, that I have gone up against teams that are very close to that and still gotten a 4K. It's not a guarantee, it's just really unfun to play against. So, every perk is assigned a cost based on its grading as well as its in-game benefit. Okay, these values are chiefly going to be on the server side of things, so they can vary over time as the metagame shifts, and as we experience new gameplay changes from the patches, as well as from perhaps seasonal events that happen in-game. It's all under behavior's control, which means that they can alter this sort of perk point economy, tweaking it here and there without having to release a whole big new patch or build or anything. It's just server handled. And that makes it extremely dynamic and all sorts of things. So, one other thing that I think, well, let's say 2 things. One other thing I think that this perk point system would benefit from is the capacity to invest your points. So if you've gotten your build sorted out and you have leftover points, say you have enough for Discordance Free here, which is a killer perk that somewhat defeats my argument, but anyway, say you have enough for a perk like Discordance Free, and you're already set to go, you've hit ready up and all sorts. You can then take those points and invest them in somebody else. So you could take your points, give them to somebody else on your team who might need the assistance of a 3rd or even 4th second chance perk, or maybe they've just not quite balanced things out as much as they'd like, that kind of thing. So that means you could have a team that has 3 players that are investing their points heavily into a 4th player to bring along some really powerful perks, and their purpose on the team is to be the designated distraction. Okay, that's fine. Having only 1 really annoying player in a game is actually okay, and it's genuinely quite challenging. The downside for the team, on the other hand, though, is that they've now reduced the potential power of perks that they can have on their different characters. There's just the 1 person running around with really powerful perks. Everybody else has to make do with something a little bit less. And the second little addition there is, maybe you should be able to vote. Maybe you should, as a survivor, be able to allow the killer to have more perk points in a given match than they might otherwise have, allowing them to bring along really powerful perks. For instance, like Ruin, or for instance like Franklin's Demise, or Noed, or other things. All of these wonderful perks that I love to play and that are really powerful, and admittedly, quite frequently for me end up as auto-includes. Surveillance and Discordance are pretty powerful, and I love them. But maybe I shouldn't necessarily be able to have both of them on every single build that I use. Maybe there should be some variance there. What we want to promote is not the same perk builds over and over and over. We want to actually promote some kind of consideration and context and ideas. So, if all of the players on the Survivor team vote that the killer should have more points, then maybe I get access to whatever build I like. Maybe I'm allowed to use iridescent add-ons. Maybe those should be costed as well. And the survivors, as a consequence, maybe they get a few more blood points in their build. Maybe they get more blood points when they actually finish the game and survive. But either way, that puts it more in the actual people in the game's control as to what they go up against and how they deal with it, that kind of thing. So for example, let's say we have a team of 4 survivors working in a survivor-friend situation. We'll call them Dwight, Jake, Meg, and Claudette. And let's say Dwight is relatively new to the game, so he opts to invest a quarter of his perk points into Jake, since he doesn't actually have many perks unlocked to actually use in the first place. Jake then uses Dwight's points, as well as most of his own, to choose Dead Hard, Saboteur, Sprint Burst, and Self-Care. Okay, Jake's looking pretty decent. Claudette decides to play Team Medic, so she goes a bit more balanced, choosing Self-Care, Botany Knowledge, Iron Will, and maybe even Deliverance. That kind of thing. And Meg has just been playing longer than Dwight, but her perks aren't full grade, so she's actually able to squeeze in similar perks to Jake, just at lower grades, so they're not as powerful, but they're still quite expensive. And she ends up with something like, say, Dead Hard, Sprint Burst, Balanced Landing, and Premonition. So you now have a team that cannot be 90% second chance perks. I think I did the math and worked out you could have 25 apparent chances on a team, and that's just not great. Valid for the survivors, but it's really not fun to play against. And games, I think, should be fun. Radical concept, I know. But with this kind of idea, you can also dial this in for the pro gaming kind of circuit that people keep saying would be a magnificent idea for this. So you can tightly control what perks people at the pro level and such are able to use by just dialing down the perk points. So it can still turn up at really powerful perks, but then they're crippling the rest of their build, that kind of thing. And if you change the number of perk points that survivors have in a pro situation, then you can also greatly control exactly what perks they bring along and make things more interesting and diverse and such. Again, if we had concerns of fairness here, I've been talking about this very much for a versus the survivors problem, but this is very much also on the killer side as well. It's just we only see one killer per match and we see 4 survivors per match, so it's more glaring and obvious on the survivor side of things. But if we had more concerns of fairness, we can absolutely apply this to the killer. We could even, like, say that their add-ons cost points to use as well. So they might have more points on average than the survivors do, but those points go into their add-ons. So they get to they get to pick whether or not they can bring along, say, Amanda's Letter, or maybe they bring along rule set number 2, which is probably costed a little lower than Amanda's Letter anyways, but these are ultra rare, iridescent add-ons, and yeah, they probably should have some kind of cost value associated, because there's a lot of very powerful things at the iridescent level. Wall hacks, for instance, exposed, insta-downs, that kind of thing. So I can understand these also falling under the points system. And this, to me, feels like a great idea. This, to me, feels like it addresses the problem without requiring a massive overhaul of the different perks, without requiring a big overhaul of various things, and giving behavior a lot more means to react to powerful things that they weren't necessarily expecting to be very powerful, or which have just been, like, added to with a new release, and it's made something really stupid and absurd and whatnot. They can just manually adjust those points on their end of things, and everybody gets a little bit more wary of using them in their builds. But that's my idea. What do you think? Let me know. I'll catch you all as ever next time.